Stride Audio Show.
Presented by Speak English with Us.
Quick question. What sounds more interesting? I was late or I had the weirdest morning today? And yes, your brain already knows the answer.
Definitely the second one. The first one sounds like a receipt, not a story. And honestly, most of us do that. We dump facts and hope people stay awake.
Exactly, and that's the pain point today. You got real moments, late meetings, missed trains, awkward trips, but they come out flat, so people nod politely, and the energy just dies.
This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. Beginners, you are welcome too. We're going to make your English sound more natural without making it longer or fancier.
And there is one thing we discovered. People remember stories better when the beginning and the ending feel clear. So if you lead with a hook, your listener wants the middle instead of surviving it.
I used to open stories like a badly organized spreadsheet. Then this happened, then that happened, then I ate lunch. No suspense, no shape, just emotional cardboard.
Emotional cardboard is brutal, but so accurate. Quick choice for you, A or B. Would you rather hear I was fine or my phone died right before the taxi arrived? That's the difference we're talking about.
Stay until the end for our Word Tour 5 expressions that'll help you shape stories, not just list events. We'll break down exactly how to sound natural, clear, and a lot more fun to listen to.
And I bet some of you are listening while walking, making tea, or pretending to answer emails. If that's you, no judgment. We've all done the same thing.
Later, we'll give you one tiny trick that changes everything. But first, let's admit the real problem. Most stories don't go wrong because the facts are bad. They go wrong because the listener can't tell where the point is.
Exactly. So today, we're not trying to sound dramatic for no reason. We're trying to give your story shape so people lean in instead of drifting away. I had the weirdest morning today, and I almost ruined it by telling it the boring way. I was late, I was stressed, and my brain was doing that terrible thing where every detail felt equally important.
That's exactly where stories lose people. If you start with the bus, the coffee, the traffic, and the weather all at once, the listener has to build the story for you. And that's too much work.
Right, and then you sound like you're reading your own diary out loud. So I tried something different. I started with the result first. I had the weirdest morning today. And suddenly my friend looked up.
That's the hook. It catches someone off guard because it creates a gap in the listener's mind. They want the missing piece, and that gap is what keeps attention alive.
Exactly. Then I used a simple shape, setup, problem, result. Not a script, not a speech, just a clean route through the mess.
Let's make it concrete. Setup, I left home on time. Problem, then my key disappeared. Result, I found it in the fridge. That's tiny, but it still feels like a story.
In the fridge. That alone is better than half the stories I've heard at brunch. And because the ending is funny, people remember it.
I once went off track for 5 minutes talking about a parking ticket when the real story was about missing my flight. My friend's eyes went glassy. Very expensive mistake.
That's the danger. When you go off track, the listener loses the thread and the main point disappears behind random details.
So here's the rule. If a detail doesn't move the story forward, leave it out. You don't need every stair you climbed, every email you saw, or every sip of coffee you took.
Thank you, because I do not need a cinematic replay of someone's breakfast. But I do want the part that changes the story.
And that's where another move comes in build up to the important part. Don't throw the best moment at the listener too early. Let the tension rise a little.
So instead of saying, my meeting was bad, You might say, I walked in confident, then the room went silent. That builds up to the problem, and now the listener is with you.
Exactly. The sentence does some of the work for you. It points the audience toward the moment that matters.
And if you're thinking, but I don't have a dramatic life, good. You don't need a drama. You need shape. Even a small delay can sound interesting if you frame it well.
Like, I thought I had 5 minutes. Then I saw the calendar. That's simple, but it gives the story movement.
Let's do a tiny practice round. Imagine you're telling a friend about a missed bus. Don't list everything. Start with the result, then give the setup, then the problem.
Okay. I had the weirdest morning today. I left early, but the bus left early too. So I ran, missed it, and arrived sweating. That's much better than the bus was there than it wasn't.
Yes. And notice how your listener now has something to picture. They can see the movement, the tension, the finish.
This is also where serial position effect matters. People remember the start and the ending more than the middle, so if your opening is clear and your ending lands well, the story feels stronger.
Serial position effect. That sounds technical, but it's actually simple. It means the first and last parts stick better, so your story should protect those two spots.
Exactly. In the middle, you can keep it short. Don't overload the listener there. Save your energy for the hook and the landing.
And by the way, if you've ever said, then I went there, it was okay, this episode is for you. We're going to fix that shape in a very practical way.
There's also a phrase for when the story starts drifting and you need to pull it back later. We'll get to that in the word tour. For now, just remember, hook, shape, finish.
So don't panic if your first attempt feels awkward. The goal isn't to become a novelist. The goal is to sound like a person who knows where the story is going.
And if you can do that in 30 seconds, you're already ahead of most everyday conversations. Keep it short, keep it clear, and let the listener want the next line.
Okay, but here's the pushback. If I start every story with a neat hook and a tidy result, won't that sound artificial? Real life doesn't always arrive in a perfect 3-part package.
I don't buy that. Structure isn't fake, it's just helpful. If you tell me I was late, then my key disappeared, then I found it in the fridge, I'm not hearing a robot. I'm hearing a person who knows what matters.
But what if the mess is the point? Sometimes the wandering, the tiny side details, the weird atmosphere, that's what makes a story feel human.
Sure, but if you let every detail in, you go off track. Then the listener stops following the main point, and the human feeling turns into confusion. That's not depth, that's drift.
Hold on, though. Isn't there value in letting a story breathe? If everything is compressed too much, don't we lose the voice, the mood, the little pauses that make it real?
A little breathing room, yes. But you can still build up to the important part. You don't need to narrate the parking lot, the elevator, the umbrella, and the receipt, unless they actually matter.
Okay, but people do that all the time. They say, I'll keep it short, and then the short version becomes a documentary with bonus scenes.
Exactly, and that's why we need a shape. Think of it like this. The listener has limited patience. If you don't guide them, they'll wander off mentally and start planning dinner.
I can't argue with the dinner problem. Still, I'm worried that if we always optimize for clarity, we flatten personality. A funny detour, a strange pause, a tiny tangent, that can reveal character.
Totally, but only if the tangent serves the story. If it doesn't, it becomes noise. I'd rather hear one sharp detail than 10 scattered ones.
So you're saying every story has to behave like a business email? Start with a point, keep the middle lean, end fast?
No, I'm saying the audience should feel safe inside the story. That means your opening should catch someone off guard, your middle should move, and your ending should land. That's not a memo. That's good communication.
Let me push harder. What if I want to sound spontaneous? If I use the same pattern every time, won't my English start sounding rehearsed?
Not if the content changes. The framework stays. The story doesn't. You can play it by ear with the details, but the shape gives you confidence when your brain freezes mid-sentence.
That freeze is real. You know that feeling. When you're halfway through a story and suddenly you think, wait, where was I going? Then your face changes, your voice drops, and the whole thing collapses.
Been there? I once told a travel story and spent 40 seconds on a bus seat when the real issue was that I missed the train. My listener had the patience of a saint and still looks tired.
That's because you went full scenic route. And I do get your point, but I still think stories need personality, not just architecture.
Personality comes through your choices. You decide what to highlight, what to skip, and when to pause. That's why a framework doesn't kill authenticity. It protects it.
So your argument is that structure helps the real story come through instead of drowning in extra material?
Yes. And if you want proof, think about the stories people remember after a week. They remember the opening line, the twist, and the ending. That's the serial position effect in action.
Right. The brain favors the first and last parts. So if I say, I had the weirdest morning today, and then finish with, my key was in the fridge, the listener holds on to the strongest parts.
Exactly. You're not lying to the listener. You're helping them hear the story in the best order.
Okay, I'm warming up to this. But I still want a tiny bit of freedom in the middle, one odd detail, one human pause, one little joke.
Deal. Just don't let the joke become the whole story.
Fair. And for anyone listening, this is the big question. Do you want to sound interesting or do you want to sound impossible to follow? Because you can't really do both for long.
That's the balance. Use the framework, keep your voice, and don't be afraid of a little structure. It's not a cage. It's a path.
And if the story starts wobbling, you can always come back to the main point. That's not failure. That's skill.
Exactly. In the real world, the best stories are clear enough to follow and human enough to feel alive. That's the sweet spot we're after.
So maybe the goal isn't to tell a perfect story. Maybe it's to tell one that feels honest, organized, and just a little bit surprising.
Yes, and that's what will turn into practical word choices next.
So now we've got the shape, hook, setup, problem, result. And that's already a huge shift from flat line-by-line talking.
Right? And the next step is to notice the exact phrases that help you do it naturally. We used a few key ones in the story, and they're worth keeping.
5 expressions, real context, no boring list. Just the words that make your story sound alive.
Let's open the word tour and break them down one by one.
So let's go back to that weird morning, the one with the fridge key and the bus drama. That story had shape because we didn't just list facts, we moved the listener through it.
And one phrase that does a lot of heavy lifting is long story short. You use it when you want to give a shorter version after more happened than you want to explain.
Exactly. If I say, long story short, I found my key in the fridge, you already know I'm skipping the full chaos. It sounds natural because it prepares the listener for a quick summary.
And it's especially useful when you've been talking too long and you can feel the other person's eyes doing that slow, polite fade. Long story short brings the story back to earth.
Like a rescue rope for a wandering story. And notice how we used it in a real moment. Not as a dictionary definition, but as part of the story itself.
Another phrase that's super useful is catch someone off guard. It means to surprise someone suddenly in a way they didn't expect.
So if my friend thought I was just telling a normal morning story, and then I said the key was in the fridge, that would catch them off guard, because the detail is odd in a good way.
Exactly. It creates that little surprise jump in the listener's mind. And in stories, that's powerful because surprise wakes people up.
It also helps your opening. If you start with something unexpected, you can catch someone off guard right away. I had the weirdest morning today does that a little, and then the fridge detail does it even more.
Right. And that surprise doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be small, funny, or just unexpected enough to make someone want the next sentence.
Now, play it by ear is different. This one means you don't have a fixed plan. You decide as things happen.
Which is basically every day before coffee. But in storytelling, it means you don't need to script every line. You can start with the hook, then play it by ear with the details.
Like if I'm telling a friend about a trip and I don't know every part yet, I can still begin and see where the story wants to go. We'll play it by ear. Sounds relaxed, flexible, and very human.
And that flexibility matters because real conversation is alive. You're not reading a report, you're adjusting as you speak.
So if I'm at dinner and someone asks about my day, I can play it by ear instead of freezing with a perfect plan in my head.
Exactly. You stay responsive. You don't need to know every line before you start.
Then there's go off track. We use that when the story wandered into the parking ticket instead of the missed flight.
Yes, and it's a great phrase because it describes what happens when the story stops following the main point. You can say, "Sorry, I went off track there," and people immediately understand.
It's polite, too. It tells the listener, I know I wandered. That tiny phrase can save a conversation from feeling messy.
And it's honest. Sometimes the story does go off track, usually right after someone says, "This will be quick."
The most dangerous sentence in English?
True. Next, build up to. This one means you lead slowly towards something important.
So instead of dropping the best part immediately, you build up to it. You create tension first, then reveal the key moment.
Right. If I say I walked into the meeting, everyone was quiet, and then my boss looked at my slides, I'm building up to the problem. The listener feels the tension before the reveal.
And that's why it feels better than flat reporting. You're not just giving information, you're guiding attention.
Let's do one quick mini reset. If your story is too long, you can start with long story short and then use the clean ending. If it surprises the listener, great, you've caught someone off guard. If you're unsure where it's going, you can play it by ear.
If it starts to wander, you know you've gone off track. And if you want suspense, you build up to the best part instead of dumping it too early.
That's the whole set. 5 phrases, 5 jobs, all in real conversation.
And the best part is, once you hear them this way, you start noticing them everywhere in native speech.
Exactly. They're not just vocabulary. They're story tools.
So we started with that flat, I was late kind of story, and we ended with a much better shape: hook, setup, problem, result. Plus a few phrases that help you guide the listener.
And the big idea is simple. You don't need a bigger life to tell better stories. You need a clearer opening, a cleaner middle, and an ending that gives the listener something to hold on to.
If you want to practice, keep it tiny. Tell one real story in 30 seconds. Start with the result, then use setup, problem, twam's result. Don't chase perfection. Just finish the story.
And if you feel stuck, use one of our anchor phrases. Long story short, buys you time, build up to, helps you shape the middle, and go off track is useful when you need to bring yourself back.
I still go off track sometimes, especially when I'm excited and talking too fast. But now I can catch it, fix it, and keep going instead of turning the story into a small disaster.
Same here. I used to think a good story had to be long. Honestly, most of the time, short and clear wins.
So here's the challenge. This week, tell one story to a friend, a coworker, or even to yourself out loud. Keep the first sentence strong, keep the middle focused, and land the ending.
And pay attention to the response. If they lean in, ask a follow-up, or smile at the ending, that's your signal that the story worked.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments what's one everyday moment you could turn into a better English story.
We read every single comment. Thanks for listening, and next time we'll keep building on this with even more natural speaking tools.
Keep it simple, keep it real, and don't be afraid to tell the story your way.
Bye for now.